What up, my guys? Welcome to another show, man. It's NBA Talk with Jay and the Shark. We're here trying to get some cash as we are every single day. It's Friday. A lot of top looks on the card here. Obviously, I'm your host. It's my guy, Shark. What's up with you, Shark? Everything cool with you, my brother?
Absolutely taking a breath. Friday morning, 11 Eastern, 9 Mountain, December 2nd. I said it on Twitter. I'll say it here. December is for domination. 11-game card today. A lot going on. Jay Money, great to be back. Let's get in there and let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's all business here, my guys. On the show, first game up, we're going to the streets of Charlotte here. We got the Hornets here getting 3 points at the house versus the Washington Wizards here. Total sitting somewhere around 224 in this one, guys. Obviously, the Wizards have already beaten the Hornets twice this year, Char. You think they can make it 3 in a row, my guy?
I think this is a tough game. I think there's a lot of counters to either side of this game. The first thing I did notice, as you mentioned, you do get a 2x revenge game. You get it within the division. So you talk about peak motivational spots. This would be a peak motivational spot for Charlotte. And I think Charlotte, to a certain degree, is turning a bit of a corner at home, if we're going to go that direction. 2-0 ATS last 2 at home, and 2-0 straight up. Fairly impressive win against Philadelphia a week ago Wednesday, on Thanksgiving Eve. A game against Philly without Joel Embiid, but a team that is incredibly high-paced and functionable. And then a very impressive win against Minnesota as well. The number here is not telling us a great story, and I think it's going to be sharp. If you go back to the last matchup, Washington was laying 4.5 points at home. They did win the game 106-102, finished at 4. It was a hook. This is holding strength on the road at 3 for Washington. I don't like fading the double revenge game. I don't like fading some upward momentum for this Charlotte team. And one last final point as to the sharpness of this game. If you go through Washington's last handful of road games, they are right on the number. At Brooklyn, lost 113-107 on a 6 push. At Boston Sunday night, I had that incorrectly. It was 7.5, 8.5, finished at 9. This game tonight is going to be very tight on the number, I believe, and I would like to take Charlotte, but I just can't get there.
Yeah, some good points there. Absolute stay away from me game. Nothing for me in this one, my guys. Hornets still basically the walking wounded. Not even sure they'd like to win games right now. Wizards have been playing a little bit better, but let's just say I don't have any interest in this game, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Boston here. We have the Celtics laying 7.5 points versus the Miami Heat in this one, guys. Obviously, the Celtics, it's really tough to go against them. Best team in the NBA, most balanced team in the NBA, all that good stuff, Shark. They're laying 7.5 points here at the house. So you think they get it done once again?
Well, this is where you find yourself in this campaign with Boston, who is now 14-1 in their last 15 games, 5-0 ATS on this homestand. And really, as you said, just playing top-level basketball, historically speaking. This team is incredibly efficient offensively. I mean, we're looking at just huge, huge numbers. 125, 122, 130, 140, 134. You get Miami in a revenge game. You get a line getting steamed down. This did open at 8.5. It's at 7.5 now. I believe Jimmy Butler will be in the lineup tonight. We mentioned this numerous times. The last time Miami went to the finals in the bubble a few seasons ago, they came out the next year. They didn't get their win for 45 games. They just couldn't figure it out. And now, obviously, last year, losing to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, this team is still highly, highly lackluster and uninspired at 10-12. We wanted to buy it in the first game this year. Boston went in there and beat them anyway on the road, 111-104, in what was theoretically the big motivation revenge spot. And I think conventional wisdom would have suggested maybe they revenged them in the last game. They did not do that either. I think Boston right now is just a tough fade, as much as I'd like to fade them at some point. Can't do it. Free play. I have no real lead in this game. I don't love this game at all.
Yeah, free play for me, and I'm rocking with the Heat. Took them last night plus the 8.5, and you know what? I think I might hop on them here first half as well. Obviously, you get quick revenge plus the playoff revenge. I watched the first game through and through. They played really great in that game. I'll be honest. I was surprised that the Heat didn't cover the game. They were only down 3 with 5 minutes left. They're 3-1 straight up and last 3-1 straight up last 4 games, 3-1-1 against the spread last 5 games. The Heat are starting to play better. Could be a little bit more on Kyle Lowry. Maybe, I don't know if he was injured or what, but he's starting to play a lot better. Jimmy Butler should be back in this game. Don't be a bit surprised to see this one come down even further, in my opinion. It all starts with the defense. They brought it in the first game. This isn't necessarily a situation where a star player comes back, it can mess things up, especially when you really need them. You see what I'm saying? So obviously nothing's guaranteed. It could be Jimmy Butler may not even be enough to save these guys versus Celtics, but they did only shoot 9 free throws as opposed to 23, and it was basically the game right there. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know if it was the royal prince and princess in the house. They were giving some calls, needed the Celtics to win or whatever, but I do see a even more even game here. Heat 12-5 against the spread last 17 in Boston. The road team is also 6-2 and 7-3 against the spread last 10 meetings. Celtics last home game before a 6-game road trip. And they do have this is their 6th straight home game, but they do have possible look ahead to the next. Regardless of that, I like the Heat here to keep it close. I think Butler coming back will be a huge energy boost for this team. Hopefully they don't put Haslam out there. He should never see minutes in the NBA game right now. But I also think the Heat come out with something here early in the first half, guys. If they don't cover the first half, then they're probably not covering a full game. So you got to get on the Celtics early, bring the defense. I like the Heat here. I took them full game plus the 8.5. Still like the 7.5. Heavily lean to the first half plus the 4.5. I definitely believe I'll be adding that one, guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Milwaukee here. We have the Bucks land 8.5 points versus the Lakers here, Shark. Chris Middleton is coming back today. You like anything in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great starting point when we want to, chat about this game. I think obviously when you bring Chris Middleton back into the lineup here, roughly 20 games into the season, there is going to be an adjustment period. And, you just mentioned obviously Jimmy Butler coming back not being an issue. I think Chris Middleton coming back could potentially be an issue here. Of course, the guy is a great NBA player, and he's 1-1A there with Giannis taking them to the finals and obviously a championship 2 years ago. But not playing for such a long period of time, Milwaukee obviously starting the season scorching hot, just finding some sort of win. And Milwaukee really sort of cratering down to what is more of a normalized average now. And if you actually look at both sides of this game, the Lakers and Milwaukee effectively are doing the polar opposite this year. The Lakers, as we discussed numerous times, did come out 2-10 straight up. At the same point, Milwaukee was the best team in the league at 9-0. And as Milwaukee has cratered down to a degree in their ATS efficiency, 5-6 ATS in their last 11, the Lakers are starting to show signs. Lakers are 6-2 straight up last 8. Lakers do get a 3x revenge game here. And I think a noteworthy point here, Lakers are 2-0 last 2 ATS at Milwaukee, and they're 0-2 at home at crypto.com, with Milwaukee traveling better on the road. I'm not on this officially. I would lean towards the Lakers here, however.
Yeah, and it pains me, guys, Shark. It pains me here, but I did take the Lakers here plus the points. Like you said, I mean, they're 6-2 straight up and against the spread last 8 games, playing a lot better, man. They're playing hungry. They're starting to get healthier. Schroeder probably won't be in this game. His wife's pregnant with his kid, so he's questionable. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not out there. Would be somewhat of a loss, but I think Middleton coming back here. I mean, you probably wait. You might even get a 9. I'll be honest, it was a 9 last night at PointsBet. It's something I've really been doing line shopping, just getting the best line, but they had a 9 last night at PointsBet. And they moved it down to 8. But regardless of that, I like this is a national TV game here, guys. Middleton's coming back. Everyone's going to be on the Bucks. I believe like more than 80% of people will be on the Bucks here. That doesn't really matter, but for me personally, I don't mind finding spots to go against everyone. But I think the Lakers can keep it close. They've been playing some defense. Obviously, we need AD and Thomas Bryant to somewhat kind of stand in that paint and kind of at least somewhat just try to stop Giannis here. But I did put a little something on the Lakers plus the 8.5. I do like this play. I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes down to the wire. And I've somewhat seen this movie before. Star player come back, everybody hop on it. National ESPN game. I don't think that they cover this game. Anything's possible. They could smack them, but I'm on the Lakers here plus the 8.5. I'm not scared. I actually like all dogs today, my guys. Let's go over here to the street. Not this one though. Let's go over here to the streets of Atlanta though. We got the Hawks here getting 2.5 points at the house versus the Denver Nuggets. The Hawks somewhat the walking wounded here, Shark. I don't even really like to mention injuries here on the show anymore because they don't really matter. But let's just say the Hawks they're missing a few key guys here. But Nuggets, the only way I can look in this one, Shark.
Yeah. The buy hat is engaged on a suddenly not so casual free Friday, December 2nd, 2022. We're taking the first quarter specifically minus 1 unit. And we discussed this all last year. We made a lot of money taking Denver on the road at the East in the first quarter. It's continued this year. For whatever reason, and it is psychological, this team, when they're on the East Coast at a different body time, they come out with insane pace, focus, energy, and shot quality. And you go through it this year, they are 2-1 ATS in the first quarter on the road at the East. They covered at Indiana and they covered at Chicago. They did not cover at Boston, but you got to look at that as a qualifier on Boston. Boston is an absolute filthy juggernaut in the first quarter at home. That was just a tough fade spot for Denver. Denver was, I believe, I don't have the statistic right in front of me. I believe they were 12-3 last year, first quarter at the East against the spread. And you go to the other side of this game, as you mentioned, Atlanta, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on here. Go back to last year. The same exact environment existed when these teams played in Atlanta. It was December 17th, 2021. It was the first road game in a sequence for Denver coming off of a home game. And it also was a Friday night. And Denver covered the trifecta. I'm really honed in on the first quarter because I do think the back door could be open potentially, because when we go through this last year, Denver was a bit of a fade down the stretch in these environments where they came out hot. But all boxes checked. 1 unit official. Denver first quarter -1.
Yeah, I couldn't talk you off here as well, man. I'm leaning the Nuggets here full game in some type of capacity. I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't look at the first quarters and first half. I only looked at full game, so just keeping it honest with you guys. But spicy Nuggets are red hot, man. 4-0 and 5-1 straight up and against the spread. Their last 6 games, my guys. 3-0 straight up in ATS. Last 3 versus the Hawks, so they match up well versus them. The Hawks are banged up right now, man. Like I said, as I like to say, they're walking wounded. They're only 1-5 against the spread last 6 games as well versus winning teams. So yeah, I mean, this isn't the Magic here. The Hawks, those are the type of team the Hawks love to see. The Magic, they'll smack them up by 20, 30 points easily. Go up against a top-tier team. They don't have the bench to compete with some of these top-tier teams, guys. And I don't think they have the bench to compete with the Nuggets as well. So obviously, if guys like Bones Hollins are playing in here, I'm not sure what guys like Drew Holiday and Justin Holiday are going to do off the bench. This Hawks team has one of the worst bench production in the league, and it's going to be even worse because now you have 2 starters out, so you're going to have 2 bench players starting now. See, does it make sense? So 2 bench players coming into the starting lineup. Now your bench gets even weaker here. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Nuggets ran these guys off the floor, Shark. Could be early and often. You talked about it. The Nuggets cashed the trifecta last time. They could be cashing it here once again. So I like the look in the first quarter. I'd be leaning towards the Nuggets here early and often. I lean their way full game. It was at +1 last night. It's up to -2.5 with the injury news. Collins and Hunter is out. Capella questionable as well here, my guys. So, but Michael Porter Jr. is out for the Nuggets as well. Bones Hollins questionable. Let's go over here to the streets of Brooklyn here. We have the Nets land 1.5 at the house versus the Raptors. They've already beat them twice this year, Shark. Do you think the Raptors finally get some revenge here?
I do. And I'm going to pull a hat change to one of my favorite prints. I'll say it now, and I'll say it every single time I wear this hat. The buy hat is engaged. We're on Toronto overnight at +2.5. +1.5 now, and I think that's intelligent, sharp steam, and I think it's for very good reason. As we mentioned, double revenge game here this year. First game early on, 109-105 Brooklyn in Barclays on a -2.5. Then it came back to Toronto. Toronto was laying 2 points in that game. I had the game. I certainly wasn't expecting Toronto to sit out most of their starters right before the game, and the line did flip very late to Brooklyn -2.5, and Brooklyn did hammer them 112-98. So now you come back off of what was not the original line, but the important line, which was the adjustment point for that game as it was weighted on the road, and you come back at the same number. This should be coming up if we were expecting Brooklyn to clean them up and win 3 in a row and cover 3 in a row this season against Toronto. This line should be 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, somewhere around there. You get the double revenge game for Toronto. You get them off a fairly useless game at New Orleans in the previous game. You get it off a game where Fred VanVleet, I believe, got tossed fairly early. Freddie VanVleet, kid out of Wichita State, he doesn't strike me as a hot-headed guy. And I just think if he's getting tossed in the game, that's going to tell us something about how focused and angry this team is. They want revenge here. They play much better on the road at the East situationally. And Brooklyn at 6-2 last 8 straight up. A little bit too hot in a small window. We're taking the number. We're taking double revenge. Buy hat engaged 2.5, 1.5, 1 unit.
Yeah, I couldn't talk you off here. It's not something that I'm on today, but I'll tell you, I'm leaning a lot of dogs tonight, my guys. So Raptors be none of them, another one of them. Double revenge. Nets are starting to play a lot better, but Raptors are getting a little bit healthier as well. They definitely have the defense. They have Siakam back. He's looked good as well. So they're going to need Siakam on KD because he's on an absolute tear right now. But there is sharp money coming on this. So a lot of sharp guys that I know are rocking with the Raptors today, my guys. So couldn't talk you off the Raptors here. Definitely hope you cast this one, Shark. May have to ride with you here, my guy. Let's go over here to the streets of Cleveland here. We have the Cavs here. Laying 10.5 points versus the Magic. I don't have much on this game. Magic are, I believe, 8-2 against the spread last 10 versus the Cavs. Cavs could smoke them here if they want to. Not much on this game for me, Shark.
Yeah, this game, not a great game to cap. When I was looking at this, I again was astounded. Cleveland is 8-0 ATS at home against the East, running an absolute clean sheet, 100% cover rate. They're also 4-0 ATS at home versus the Southeast. Orlando comes in here on an L6. Theoretically, you want to buy Orlando in a revenge game in some sort of format here. And I do think a reasonable corollary, the last time Orlando played a road game at the Central on a Friday night, they did actually cover the game and win outright at Chicago, 108-107. This line is pretty much a dead mirror to the previous matchup in Cleveland played early season. A game Cleveland won by 11 points, 103-92 on an 8.5. It was tight. And I think that's a snapshot to Cleveland, again, being 8-0 ATS at home against the East. A few of these covers have been very, very tight, particularly within the Southeast. They beat Orlando by 11 on an 8.5. They beat Washington by 10 in overtime on a 3.5. And the most egregious of the three, they beat Charlotte by 10 in double overtime on, I believe, a 9.5. So the moral of the story here is Cleveland is too hot, and Cleveland is also running hot, like casino heater style, covering these spreads against these Southeastern teams in overtime and double overtime. If I had a free play here tonight, I would lean towards the dog and lean towards Orlando.
Got you. I couldn't talk you off. I'm definitely leaning some dogs here today, my guys. Go over to the streets of Memphis here. We have the Grizzlies land 5.5 points versus the Philadelphia 76ers here, Shark. You like anything in this game, my brother?
I don't love this game, and I do think we're data deficient here. This is the first road game for Philadelphia this year at the West. And of course, there's 15 games. This is the first one. And just like we talked about with Denver, teams do play very specific in and out of their own conference. And we're definitely data deficient here within this campaign. We're not data deficient for Memphis. Memphis has already played they opened the season, with 5 straight home games against the East. They did go 3-2. They did cover against Brooklyn. They blew out Charlotte. They didn't cover against Washington or the Knicks. I don't know if we can correlate any of these games really to Philly. Maybe the Brooklyn game where they won by 10. Memphis is in a revenge game here. Last year on the road, they did like 3.5 points against Philly. I believe Philly was missing some players in that game. And that's why Memphis was laying such a strong figure. Comes back home at 5. It's a little short. Truthfully, I do lean towards Memphis. I think Memphis, functionally speaking, against opponents like this, will perform reasonably well. And also, one final point. Last year, the favorite was 0-2 ATS. So when the books miss 2 lines in a row as a strength point, oftentimes it does come back to the favorite. But as a final point here, I do think, as we talk about all the time, home favorites around 5 or 6 are some of the sharpest lines in the sport of NBA basketball. I think it's a toss. I would lean towards Memphis, but I don't like the game.
Yeah, that's a good point there. It's a tough game. I mean, the Sixers have been traveling all over the place. They are starting to play a lot better here, though, in my opinion. It's kind of crazy, but I can only look towards the 76ers in this game. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if the Grizzlies got it done. They do have some good matchups in theory. Steven Adams versus Morant, Steven Adams versus Embiid, and obviously Ja Morant. It's gonna be a little bit easier for him to get to the basket. Joel Embiid not necessarily trying to play a ton of defense right now, but only way I can look at Sixers Sixers in this one. They got absolutely no calls in the last game. Keep in mind, I was against the Sixers last game. They got no calls in that game. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't take that one officially, but they played the Cavs. I did suggest, though, that the Cavs were going to bounce back offensively. They smoked them by damn near 30 points. But regardless of that, they got absolutely no calls. And I usually like to back a team after that. Embiid throwing all over the floor, no calls. So I was loving to see it, to be honest with you. But bounce back spot coming off a 28-point loss. There was an absolute no-show. They're 4-0 against the spread last 4 games after a loss. 6-3 against the spread after a loss this year. That's 4th best in the NBA. That's something to keep up with. Got these teams that really hate losing or that's really good bouncing back off a loss. That's something to keep up with, guys. Now we're starting to get to that point in the season. 8-2 against the spread last 10 games. They match up well. D'Anthony Melton going up against his old squad. No one thinks about these type of things, but he could be saying, hey, look, guys, look, Embiid, this is how they would like to guard you. See what I'm saying? I have inside info on how the Grizzlies like to play your team. I played for them last year. I could give you some pointers. You see what I'm saying? And Milton's going to want to have a good game as well. Might look at his props. Even if he's coming off the bench, he's going to want to show up versus his guys. Grizz are definitely missing Bane. They're only 4-6 against the spread last 10. I sense a little bit different from this team. They don't really have that killer instinct where they can just really blow you out this year. So that's a lot for me to not have anything official on it. We're just talking games here. Heavily lean to the Sixers here, plus the 5.5. I do think this line should be closer to 3.5, my guys. So anything can happen. I'd lean Sixers heavily in this one. Let's go. Not even sure why you talk about this game. Let's go to the streets of San Antonio here, Shark. If you don't mind, if you don't have anything official, let's make this one quick, my brother. It's Pelicans or nothing for me here.
Conversation quick, fast on this one. And not much to say on this game.
I was going to say, Shark, if you got some official, you go 10 minutes for that motherfucker. I don't give a damn.
I would love to. We're getting into our flow here. I'd love to be back in here with you guys. As we said, we'll be in here 6 days a week on average, going all the way through June. So we appreciate you guys in the chat. Stay with us. We're about to turn up in our win rate and really dominate this season. And then the only standout point in this game that I really had written down here, the Spurs are the polar opposite to the Celtics. The Celtics are 14-1 last 15. The Spurs are 1-14 last 15. Dead out polar opposite. They're so terrible right now. You get a revenge game. The line's not telling us a story. And within this matchup, the road team is 4-0, last 4 straight up and ATS. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's just how it is. You would lean that to continue theoretically, but Spurs are frigid cold. They got to get off the schneid. I don't know, Jay. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs cover this one. I'm not on the Pelicans. I don't like the fact that they were on the road for 2. I mean, they were at home for 2 or 3 home games, come out for 1 standalone road game. Then you go back to the house for 3 or more straight home games. So it's a funky type of spot. They know they can beat this team with ease. I don't like being in spots where it's like, okay, this is easy right here. Me personally, I don't like feeling like that. So obviously, it's Pelicans or nothing for me. Would I be surprised if the Spurs showed up here and covered and the Pelicans didn't take this game in series? Wouldn't be surprised. Total stay away game for me. Just like this next one here. We're going to the streets of Phoenix here. Have the Suns laying 11.5 points. It's a stay away from me. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? It's either Suns or nothing. And the only thing I have written down, they have 9 straight wins over the Rockets. Rockets aren't playing a lick of defense right now. Devin Booker might go for 50 points right now. So that's the only thing I would bet in this one. Booker, he loves facing these bad teams as well. He's absolutely unstoppable right now. He should be drug tested. He's smoking some right now. And Booker is literally an alien right now. He's on a different planet right now, Shark. You like anything in this game?
It's going to be tough. Obviously, you got an in-season revenge game here. Phoenix did get them before by 15 at home, 124-109. I do think you would lean towards Houston if you had to. Of course, you mentioned it. Devin Booker is scorching hot. And I do think if you just look at one specific dynamic here, go back to Friday, November 4th. Of course, it is Friday night tonight. That does hold some weight. We always talk about Sunday being a unique day. Every day during the calendar week for an NBA team does have similar consistency points. And on that particular Friday, they did play Portland without their players and lose outright 108-106. This is a Friday night game. As you mentioned, they go on the road for 2. They have a funky start time on Sunday in San Antonio, 4 p.m. A revenge game. Houston has been very close to the number, generally speaking, on the road. Of course, they did just get hammered twice at Denver. That's actually a bit of an anomaly versus how they've played on the road this year at the West. It's going to be tight. If I had a free play, I would lean Houston to keep it closer than 12.5 points here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'd be surprised if the Rockets kept it close. But like I say, it's not something I'm official on. It's just this team on the road literally just chunks up whatever, man. I mean, if you can't beat the Nuggets weren't even playing defense versus that team. They literally just came in there like, I'll just stand in front of you. And but we'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, I don't have a play on the game. I could see the Rockets covering as well, Sharp. So, like you said, but yeah, Booker props. Only thing I can play now. It's a couple more games here, guys. Let's get up out of here, man. We got the Jazz. Let's go to the streets of Utah here, man. We have the Jazz laying 4.5 points versus the Pacers here. I don't like when they screw with me like this, man. Why does Halliburton have to be questionable in this game? I was going to be heavy on the Pacers here. I'm talking about heavy. I still lean that way. I don't know if Halliburton's going to play, though. Growing's not something to mess with. If he has a sore groin, I wouldn't be surprised if they sat him. If Halliburton's in, I'm all over the Pacers here, Shark. Do you like anything in this game?
This is going to be tough, and I agree with you. I had written down I want to take Indiana as my lean here, but my problem here is the Jazz, and I think the Jazz are in an interesting spot for a couple reasons. As we've discussed numerous times, Utah is absolutely filthy consistent against the spread against the West. And I've mentioned this. I think this is mostly because the Western opponents who competed with the Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert Jazz for years now see a Jazz team without those players and just don't take this group seriously. So the Jazz come out and run and gun and shoot the three ball at a high rate, and these Western teams just get caught napping. But the East does not. And more specifically, Utah is 0-3 ATS at home versus the East. I've had all three of them. I had them to lose to the Knicks, I had them to lose to Detroit, and I also had them to lose to Chicago in their most recent one on Monday night, November 28th. Here's the only point that I think is a little bit interesting. Jay, we talk about this all the time. Home game one off a road game or a road trip is inherently a lackluster spot for the home team. All three of those losses by Utah to the East were home game one. And this is the first time all year Utah has played a third home game in a sequence. They've played tons of road games. They haven't had a legitimate home stand yet. This is their first big home stand of the year. And as we know, Indiana was scorching hot. They were running, I believe, a 10-1 ATS clip. We said we thought it would shift potentially as they got to the West Coast. They didn't cover at the Clippers. They didn't cover the previous game. It's eluding me now as to who they played against. And they backdoored the hell out of me in LA against the Lakers. The Pacers have not played well on the road in this environment. Utah is actually in a 2x revenge game as well. The line is on Indiana. It's tough stuff tonight.
Yeah, if Halliburton's in here, I'm playing the Pacers. I don't really care, to be honest with you, about all the other stuff, man. I mean, I know the Jazz been playing well, but the Pacers, they can match up really well with this team, man. They're 6-2 against the spread, third best in the NBA. 6-2 against the spread off of a loss, guys. It's what they're in now. And I had to look at something as well. I was like, man, the Pacers hadn't lost back-to-back games. They started out the season 1-5. They hadn't lost back-to-back games since October 26th when they had lost to two top-tier teams back-to-back as well. So 2-0 straight up and 6-2 against the spread last 10 versus the Jazz. So they played well versus this team. And I think that's a key point because those were a lot better Jazz teams and a lot worse Pacers teams. I'm talking about a lot worse Pacer teams, and they still played them well. They still beat them twice last year as well, my guys. So 5-0 against the spread, last 5 off of a loss. That's even better, man. 4-1 against the spread, last 5 in Utah. They do need Halliburton. I have that in all caps. Need Halliburton out there. So I hadn't played the game yet, but it still come down from 5 to 4.5, even with his questionable status. I was kind of surprised. I thought it might shoot up to 7 or somewhere. Halliburton possible not playing. I still can only look towards the Pacers here. I think they match up really well with what the Jazz like to do. They have Turner and Jalen Smith down low to kind of go up against marketing in there as well. And the Jazz have looked a lot different without Mike Conley. I don't think a lot of people are noticing. That's when their real streak of going balls to the wall has really stopped. Ever since Conley has got injured, this has been somewhat of a different team. I think they're missing him here tonight as well. The Pacers have a good bench. Love Benedict Mathurin. Love TJ McConnell coming off the bench, guys. This Pacers they're building some over there. Let's put it that way. Halliburton in here. I'm on the Pacers in this one, my guys. I think they can win this game outright, straight up. And last point, Jazz do have a possible look ahead to the Blazers tomorrow, my guys. So Pacers, only way I could look in this one, my guys. Last game up. Let's go over to the streets of Golden State here. The San Francisco. We got the Warriors here. Land 7.5 at the house here. Total sitting at 234.5. Sharp.
Well, the buy hat engaged on the West Coast. Chase Center, San Francisco, California. Golden State Warriors We're playing the game at -7, 7.5 now, 1.25 units. And we're adding the first quarter -2.5, 1 unit. And you have to really go through this. The Dubs have been very consistent this year. And what is that? They're great at home. They're terrible on the road. And more specifically, they've been very, very good against the East at home. 3-0 ATS against the East at home, covered against Miami, covered against Cleveland, and covered against New York. And I think more specifically, the game against Miami and the game against New York were both coming off of a loss at Phoenix. And what do they come in here off of? A loss at Dallas. Excruciating one down the stretch, playoff caliber game. And if you really go to that New York game, I think it's an important corollary. They did come out with a big-time first quarter on a Friday night, 35-19. And for those of you guys who watched the previous game at Dallas, that game was won by Dallas in the first quarter. So the Dubs came out awful on the road. They're going to come out here tonight juiced up. Chicago on the other side of this game is 1-5 ATS road at the West. They didn't cover at San Antonio, Oklahoma City, or New Orleans within the Southwest. And more recently, a non-cover at Phoenix and a win at Utah, which we did have correctly. This is where the Dubs turn up. Friday night, first quarter, big-time line. Last year, Chicago did lay 2.5 points at home in the most recent matchup. This flips to 6.5. It's a 9 gap. It's extremely strong. We're on it, 1.25 units for the game. And the first quarter, -2.5, 1 unit official.
I got a question for you, Shark. They've beaten them. I can only go back to the last 10, but they've beaten the Bulls 10 straight times. Do you think the Warriors just own the Bulls?
Yes, I do. I don't think the Bulls match up at all with their style of basketball. And, we had talked about the Bulls obviously playing other teams tight. I think this is just what happens. I think they shoot, they run, they gun. And also one crucial point, when you look at these first quarters, the one against the Knicks that I'm talking about, that was not only the Dubs coming out and shooting the ball well, it was championship defense. And I had that game that night, and I actually looked back on my records, and I said to myself, why didn't I have the first quarter? They were coming off a road loss, a poor first quarter on the road. They were going to come out with championship defense. I think you're going to see championship defense tonight. I think they're going to lock it down and come out and just bring the hammer.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I have to respectfully disagree, though. I do lean the Bulls here, actually pretty heavily, to be honest with you. I may end up on the Bulls here, plus the 7, plus the 7.5. Only 2-8 against the spread last 10. So they haven't been playing well. They've lost 10 straight to the Warriors, guys. But in my opinion, it is time for revenge. I do sense a little bit something different with the Bulls. Seems like they've made some key defensive changes to go against teams like the Celtics and like the Warriors as well. In my opinion, if they can beat the Celtics and play a top-tier game, I know they was at the house, but they've shown signs. I think they did it in Boston as well. So it's kind of crazy. Maybe the Bulls actually like to turn up versus these top tier teams. I watched the last game as well versus the Phoenix. It was a clear look ahead spot. And I'm looking, why would they look ahead to the Warriors? And then I go back and look at it. These motherfuckers got blown out by 42 points the last time versus the Warriors. Something that I like to do. Now, don't get it twisted, guys. Now, the Warriors could just own these guys, but I'll tell you something I'm going to do. You lose by 42 points versus a team. It's either I'm staying off the game or I'm taking that team. They've blown these in the last 10 games. They blew them out by 40-something multiple times, like 3 times. So they could own them, but I don't care. Actually, I like the Bulls here. I wouldn't be surprised if they won this game outright as well. I think now they do match up well with the Warriors. They have the guy that come off the bench that can stick with Poole as well. So this is all about Levine and DeRozan always. That's what I like to say. Wiggins will be on one of them. Whoever Klay Thompson is guarding is going for 30 to 35 points in this game. Warriors have turned up their defense. They're playing a lot better. I give them credit here, but I think they're laying a few too many points here at the house. I like the Bulls to get some revenge. They have been playing well on the road, but this is a spot on their road trip where I feel like they give it their peak, and then the last game will probably lose this one. So Bulls plus the 7. The only way I can look at this one, my guys, I always tell people go with whatever you love, absolutely love. That's what you're gonna sleep better with at night, my guys. Now, man, real quick, let's talk about some shirts, man. We got $10 off shirts. Use promo code WIN10, man. Jay and Shark shirts only $15. So if you'd like to support the channel, you can get a shirt for only $15. Comes with a free pair of J Money approved shades as well. Also have Us Against the Bookies. Let's get some cash shirts as well. Smack City, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys for the support. Let's keep cashing, my guys. Shark, what you liking on tonight's card, my brother?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to address the chat. Somebody said, I don't think Golden State has lockdown defense in their arsenal at all. I would bring you back to the two or three games I'm referencing here. Cleveland, they gave up 101 points, and the Knicks, they gave up 101 points. Against these Eastern teams, they can lock you down if they want. And it brings me to my top play, 1.25 units, -7 dubs. First quarter, -2.5, 1 unit as well. Raptors, buy hat, sitting right next to me. A beautiful print it is. On the road, +2.5, +1.5 at Brooklyn. Double revenge game. And Denver on the road at the East in the first quarter, -1, where they perform consistently with pace, energy, focus, and defensive discipline. Beautiful Friday it is. 4 top plays, 9 words of lifestyle, rather than God of water. Jay Money, a pleasure as always. Close them out and let's dominate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, guys, I hope you did watch the video last night. Gave out Heat +8.5. I still like it. I think I'd be honest with you, I think they're probably going to have a shot to win this game. I like them first half as well, +4. So I was on Heat +8, +8.5. It's down to 6.5, 7. I still like it, but I did tell you guys to you know what I'm saying, maybe hop on that one last night. But liking the first half as well, +4. I like the Lakers here, +8.5. I think they keep this game close, my guys. Yeah, so Heat went down to 7, guys. I think they keep this game close. This is it's a huge fade as well. The Bucks kind of getting their energy messed with Middleton coming in there. You want him to have a good game, so you're kind of passing him the ball, standing there, just letting him go 1-1. I think it's going to mess up with their flow. Like the Lakers there. Like the Nuggets, man. I'll be honest with you. I didn't bet the -2.5, but I do think the Nuggets keep it going today. They're really getting into catching an offensive wind right here. I think the Nuggets get the job done today. Heavily lean to the Sixers here, +5.5. Got a little bit of inside info over there with D'Anthony Melton. They're coming off a loss. One of the best teams in the league this year, coming off a loss. Heavily lean to the Sixers there, +5.5. Suns game, if I'm only looking at that one, Booker props. Pacers, +5. I want to take that one, guys. We need Halliburton there. He's the best player on the team by far. Obviously, the Jazz could look ahead if he's out, but the Pacers, the only way I could look in that game, I want to find some type of way to get on them. They've been horrible in the first quarter, but they always cash the second quarter and come back with something for the rest of the game. I think the Pacers can run a gun and match up with the Jazz there. And the Bulls, +7, guys. They've lost 10 straight to the Warriors. They got smoked by 42 points the last game. The Warriors could absolutely own them. It's a Friday night game at the house, but I like to go against the whole world and take the Bulls +7, my guys. Let's get some cash today, guys. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. It's Us Against the Bookies. Let's get some cash. You're not competing with us or competing amongst each other, guys. You're competing with your bookie, whoever you're betting with. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Win 10, the promo code. We will win, my guys. I appreciate y'all. Yeah, it's cash.